I know. I hope. Man, what a tease. All right. We are streaming, recording on OBS. So I just need to record there. Hang on one sec. Okay. Let's do this. All right, I'm gonna do the countdown. You ready?
Mike, you ready?
All right. 5, 4, 3. It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb, and with me is
Mike Minotti. Man, being on camera on this thing always makes me very aware of just how much chest hair I must be showing everybody at all times.
Honestly, it's a short week that still felt like a long week. No one cares anymore, man. Show that chest hair.
Yeah,
Get it
it
out
felt
there.
like a bit of a week.
Yeah, if you think about some of the stuff that happened earlier this week, and like you're like that was still this week, it is yes, it's feeling quite lengthy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so world's bad, but we're gonna talk about news and games. I feel like that about sums it up.
Yeah,
it's weird when like I think Kumail Nanjiani just tweeted, and then there's still a pandemic happening. It's like, yeah, man, wow.
Yeah, that's still a thing.
That's still
that
real.
Hasn't stopped.
Yeah. So
That hasn't stopped, man.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's get to it, I guess.
Let's get to it. We're gonna talk about news and games, like I said. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email us at gamespluspodcast@VentureBeat.com. Also, thank you to Carlos Ayin, who is Insane in the Rain Music on YouTube, for the use of our theme song. And if you're listening to this on the website player widget, or you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you can subscribe to the show wherever you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. All right. Let's just get into the news, because I think there's there's not a ton, but I think there are a lot of like deep topics that we can probably get
There's
into.
some fun things to talk about.
Yeah. And first off is probably the thing most people are wondering about, the Ps4 event. They confirmed it for June 4th. So
Now, were you saying June 4th, or were you saying June 3rd?
Now so it was a whole thing. So I said June 4th way back when. Way back in like April, late April, I was like June 4th, because that was always the plan. And then in recent weeks, they started changing it internally, and I reported that. I actually heard, weirdly, one of the weird dates I heard was June 6th. They were going to move it to a Saturday. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So when I wrote my story, I was like, they might be delaying it a few days. I'd even say June 6th. And the reason June 6th might have been possible is because, that is like the E3 week, and there is stuff happening on that Saturday.
Yeah.
No, so I didn't even say June 6th. But it is one of the dates I heard. And then
I'm not trying to give you crap. It's still very impressive, Jeff. You're basically
no, I know.
Right.
I'm like walking people through it now, so someone might be curious out there. And then in the past week, I started hearing June 3rd as the date, and as I was hearing that, and I was like, teasing it on Twitter. Then Jason Schreier posted it, and corroborated it. Him and Takashi Mizuguchi, I think that's his name. And then today they confirmed it for June 4th, so they moved it again, is what it sounds like. And
maybe just to spite you.
I think so. I think Jim Ryan's just like, man, fuck Jeff Grubb. And yeah, I get it, Jim Ryan. You got to do that sometimes.
I feel like that all the time.
But yeah, so I mean, this is I think the big event most people are waiting for. Sony is characterizing it as a look at next-gen games, which is another thing I've always been saying. It's like, this is their next-gen things, next-gen games showcase. And they're being really cagey about like whether or not they're going to show the box itself still.
Right, like they have to do that by this point, right? I mean, it's been, was it 2 months ago we saw the Xbox Series X?
Man, don't ask me to do time.
It was a while ago.
It was a while
ago. So yeah, like we got to see what the PlayStation 5 looks like. But yeah, like they haven't said that's happening. But games are for sure. So you think this is going to be more exciting than what Microsoft showed for their big game showcase?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think Sony, the way that they are talking to their partners is get your game up and running on a PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 5 dev kit. This is about showing people what the PlayStation 5 is. And not just like some games that also happen to be coming out on next-gen hardware, like Microsoft's thing was, which is like, some of those games are Xbox Series X exclusives, but not everything was. But with Sony's thing, I think they're being very serious about making sure that these are games that exemplify what the PlayStation 5 is capable of, and that's going to come from third parties, but it's also going to come from first parties. So I think we're absolutely going to get confirmation of a lot of the, at least some of those games that people have always expected we'll get, like a Horizon sequel.
You think Horizon 2 is a pretty likely thing to show up here?
Like Horizon is a very likely thing to show here. I think that's, Herman Hulst taking over as Sony Worldwide Studios president, and him being in that position is the kind of thing that happens when their studio is really on top of things and they're ready to go. And then you're going to spearhead what the PlayStation 5 is. I think Horizon for sure. Anything else? Spider-Man 2, God of War 2, maybe a tease, maybe a full trailer,
maybe not for a launch, but like show. I mean,
right.
Is Horizon 2 like a launch thing, or is that just something? Yeah,
first 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
I doubt it would be launch though, just because I think they're gonna want to wait at least until like they get close to around 10 million systems sold, which is a thing we always go back.
Right. And we said it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but there's got to be some launch stuff and something kind of like there has to be the Killzone Shadow whatever that. What was that? Shadowfall? That doesn't sound right. Killzone something.
Killzone Shadow something is right.
Killzone, the last one ever.
Yes. Killzone, go back to the shadows. We're onto Horizon now.
Was the word Gorilla in there? Am I making
no? Gorilla's the studio. Like no.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
What Killzone? Man, they sure did try with Killzone. I tell you what,
they did. They made a real effort. A lot of.
There was like 6 games in that series.
Yeah. And like on the handheld too, like
Vita, and there was a PSP and a Vita game. I played that Vita game. Man, I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, I mean they really found their footing with Horizon. That makes it makes.
I think they were all happier to make Horizon. But yeah, so it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
it definitely seems like the biggest next gen showcase we've had yet, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, what else are you expecting from this event? Like, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, right?
I don't know if they're going to be talking deep about services and stuff, right? Like PlayStation Now is so interesting to me because I feel like because they took a service that wasn't Game Pass and they tried to turn it into Game Pass, and like I feel like it's just because of that there's so much confusion around it. Like I feel like PlayStation 5 is a good time to have that, but rebrand it into a way that people can kind of get excited about and understand a bit more fully. Maybe just drop the streaming aspect of it, or really de-emphasize it at least, right? Because people just want a subscription where they have access to a bunch of games that they want Game Pass.
Yeah, like they've made it clear that like they're going to have multiple events. Like this is not the only thing. So they're saying, and that's something else I reported. That there is a state of play tentatively scheduled for August, but it sounds like they might even have other updates. They said we're going to have more updates. Like this is the first part of that. So. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff that they could hold off for those other events. They are going to want to save some of those big games for next year. But, like, going deep on, like, how the system works and those services, those could be the focus of a different, like, PlayStation blog post or a different video event. So, yeah. So, we might hear that, here, but maybe not.
I think it's backwards compatibility a thing we're talking about at this. Who knows, right? Yeah. Like, I'm really expecting more. Here are the big games that you're going to get excited about. We know that you're buying Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, but it's time to start thinking about these things now.
Right, and I think Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima might be the reasons why they talk about backwards compatibility here, is they want to explain, like, hey, feel good about buying those games, because here's what you're going to get if you also get a PlayStation 5. So I think that's a distinct possibility. What do you think about the price? Do you think we hear that?
No. I mean, I feel like there's no really big reason for them to rush that. I mean, it's Sony; they've been dragging their feet on everything else with the PlayStation 5. It's not. It's hard to imagine they're going to jump ahead of Microsoft now on the price front, right?
Right. Yeah, I think they definitely want to keep the price quiet until they really know for sure, and that's going to take some time. And I've said that before as well, and then people are like, how can they not know what the price is? They absolutely know how much it costs to make that system.
Well, I'm sure they know what price they would like to sell it at. I imagine, but there's so many things here, and that's it's the one thing that they can change at the last minute until you announce it, right? Then it gets much harder. So that's where the game of chicken is played,
right? And it's like they could lower the price after announcing it, but they can't raise it, and they want to make sure that and they don't also they want to make sure they get the price point right.
Even lowering the price after you announce it can sometimes be problematic. Like, I remember the Dreamcast back in the day, right? They had to keep lowering the price, and it was always kind of looked at as a negative, right? And in a way, they were right. Like, oh, this system's in trouble. They keep lowering the price.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to look. I mean, you want to look strong for a console. I think that's a big part of a console success is the perception. We learned that. Microsoft learned that the hard way with the Xbox One. I thought I had another thought about this, but I can't. I lost it. But obviously
you're
this
just
is
full of thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, this is the big thing for Sony. This is like we're kicking off our big lead up to the PlayStation 5, so it should be exciting. And again, it's PlayStation, or I was going to say PlayStation 4, June 4th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, we'll have some coverage of that. I'm excited to check it out. But I mean, it seems like next week is going to be the busy week for not E3 stuff. Memorial Day definitely meant that this week was always going to be nothing because no one was going to be like, let's work on a Monday so we're ready for our thing on Wednesday. This was always going to be like, let's just get stuff ready through this week for next week, and now we're bearing that fruit. I guess that leads me to the next story. Is Nintendo teasing Metroid, Mike?
I mean, it's so hard because I want them to be. So, like, of course I'm going to think they are, but like, come on. So, because there's that thing with the end of the Paper Mario trailer where he's wearing the Samus helmet,
right?
And then today they just randomly tweeted like that clip out again with I forget what the message was, but they were like there was like something like, oh, nice hat there, Mario, or something like that, and then of course that Twitter account that you follow,
Hot Girl Videos 69.
Hot Girl Videos. She seemed to raise. I think she literally raised the eyebrow emoji did. So
right before Nintendo tweeted that, she was saying like Nintendo's going to have something for today or this weekend, and she's like, I know it's weird for Nintendo to have something on the weekend, but that's what I'm hearing. And then when this happened, she did the raised bar. We should explain Hot Girl Video 69. I think just a little bit.
I feel like it might be self-explanatory.
I would have explained that. I mean, she's a cam girl. That's her job. Whatever.
She's
make your money.
Girl, and one of her fans,
at least one
may be working at Nintendo,
or at least have some insider knowledge. From
I know
somewhere.
It sounds like the my uncle works at Nintendo thing, but she's like been right on something.
Yeah. She she predicted, not predicted, but she got information that E3 was going to be canceled, and then it was. And this was before anyone had heard that for sure. And then and then there were some Nintendo, like she was like one other person other than me saying that the Nintendo Direct was coming at the end of March. And I don't know. I mean, it's funny because she's like, I know this stuff, and she adds people on Twitter like, hey, look into this. No one pays attention because it's like, it looks like a bot account, Hot Girls Video 69 or whatever.
That's right, yeah.
But she's been right about a lot. You're right. So
she may be working on her branding a bit, but
but
what do I know about that world?
Exactly. Is it really that far out of the realm of possibility that there is some horny guy giving information to Hot Girl Video 69? No, I totally buy that.
69.
I know, yeah, it's very good.
It's so on the nose, Jeff.
Yeah. I love it though. I really do.
Oh yeah, but I mean, there's at least
there's smoke, right? 3
Metroid things that we're kind of have been rumored or expecting, right? There's Metroid Prime 4, which somehow seems like the least likely thing we're going to hear about. Yeah. We're still all expecting Metroid Prime trilogy for Switch, right? Like that's something that they could drop at any moment. And the third thing, that's not I forget this is one of the secret things you told me or not.
This one I don't know if I've got information on, the 2D Metroid that we were hoping.
Yeah, like some people are expecting a new 2D Metroid game, right?
Yeah.
So, and I remember at one point people thought that maybe it was a remake of Super Metroid, but I think now the consensus is that it's just a new 2D Metroid game.
And it's like, so one of those things, any one of those things would be awesome. 2 out of 3 would be great, man. I'm like, man, just do it all. Give us a Metroid day where we get all this stuff.
But I get, just because it seems like the easiest, part of me is expecting, they're gonna announce Metroid Prime trilogy finally happening, right?
Right. Yeah, and that would be fun. That'd be great.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Those games on the Switch with dual analog controls, maybe for the first time out. Heck, even if it's not, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I'll play that game no matter what. It's great no matter what.
Yeah, that game even works good with the motion controls. I like to play Metroid Prime 1 on the Wii.
Yeah.
Like, this works.
It was really well done. So yes, I really hope that's the case. I don't know for sure. I have no idea.
Yeah.
My thing with Nintendo right now is I know they're not planning a direct, and I know that they are going to sprinkle stuff out throughout the summer with like in the way that they did Paper Mario, and that's it. That's all I know. So, yeah, I hope this is real. Yeah, it would be weird for them to do it on a weekend though. So that I'm still pretty skeptical about.
It would be strange, but like it's Nintendo. It's not completely unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, you're right. All right, so the next story I have up here is The Last of Us Part 2 State of Play. Is there much to take away from here? You tell me, Mike. I watched it, but it looked good.
I actually didn't watch it because I'm like I was like, I don't think there's going to be any news from this. I've seen enough of this game. I want to play it. I don't really, it's like watching the fourth trailer for a movie you're excited about. Like, no, I'm going to see the movie. I don't need to at this point it's spoilers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess
okay.
I guess the only thing that I took away is they had a PlayStation Vita show up in the trailer.
Yeah, I was told about this through Twitter. I saw this. That's funny.
Yep, exactly. And then Ellie is like just loves stabbing people with a knife. She just loves it.
Yeah,
she's so into it.
It's so weird, like, because we talked about this before, how, like, when I see the promotional materials for all this, I find it, like, kind of weird, like, this isn't my thing. Why am I excited for this? But then when I play these games, I'm like, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, it's something I definitely realized while watching this, is that it is literally impossible to put the violence of a video game in context until you are the person holding the controller. You could see it. You could see someone else playing it. You could see the trailers. You could see these long playthroughs, in-depth previews with the developers talking over it and explaining everything. And no matter what, if it's super violent, it's just going to look like this is buck wild. Why is it so gory? Why is this the thing? And then when you're playing it, you will feel different. Because usually, once you're the person controlling it and you feel the context of the world washing over you, it's like, oh, this all makes sense. The reasons I'm engaging in this stuff as a player totally makes sense. But it's until you get to that point where you are the person, actually piloting that experience. It's you can't really judge the violence of a video game.
I mean, me, I'm more of a sunshine and rainbows kind of guy with a lot of my media, but like gory movies and stuff, I will rarely ever do. But video games, like, I could kind of get over it. Like Last of Us Part 1. I like that game a lot, right? Like, it just wasn't really an issue there. And same thing with like, newer Resident Evils or whatever, what have you. Like, not really gore is not really the issue.
Mike,
I'm sure sometimes it can go too far, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, Mike, I need you to answer something for me. All right. I saw a picture from a plane of a theme park that must be for ants because it looks so tiny. This is a theme park for ants, Mike. Super Nintendo World. It's like maybe 5 inches across. I don't know.
Oh my god. So I took an aerial photo of Super Nintendo World is the Nintendo.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm joking. I hope I don't really hurt you. I'm sorry.
It's the universal theme park thing that's happening. Built in Japan first, then coming to both parks in the U.S. in different sizes, and so like this aerial photo came out, and like a lot of it is built, so you really get this great idea of what it looks like, and just a lot of people who have no idea about theme parks like, I didn't know it was going to be so small. And like, for people who don't know, I follow a lot of theme park stuff, like
it's one of your things.
Much as gaming, like a ton of that stuff. It is like the same exact size as every other theme park land in the world. I think Jeff, there are still a lot of people who just like never like paid enough attention, because it was always a known thing that this was a theme park land. I think there's still a lot of people who just thought it was going to be an entire theme park, because there's a lot of people who are like, it's only Mario. I'm like, it's 2 rides. I mean, it's a theme park land. Like, I think a lot of people just heard about this and didn't look into it and thought, and there was that fake image that floated around like a lot of like of Nintendo Land, where it's literally Princess Peach's castle in the middle, and it's like the Metroid area and the Zelda area, right? Like that's not what this is. It's never what it was. And I think some people still have that expectation for some reason.
I mean,
even though
it
for
could
2 years
eventually be something like that, right? Like 20 years in the future, like once these things are established.
Well, like, with Harry Potter, right? And Harry Potter was probably the easier thing to build a theme park land out of, right? It was the easier thing to convince people of. Again, they built a theme park land when it was a giant hit. Then they built a second one within the same kind of theme park resort complex. So, and that's what's going to happen here, right? And you can even see in that picture, there's an area where the Donkey Kong Country expansion pad is going. And in Florida, that's going to be built at the same time as the Mario stuff. And then in Florida, there's already kind of spaces where they're thinking about doing the Pokemon section in Universal the Studios Park. And then in Islands of Adventure, there's this kind of older Poseidon themed area in an old stage show that used to be themed around Sinbad. And there have been rumors that could be where Legend of Zelda stuff goes. If again, once this comes out, this is all a big hit. And there are now so many other questions with theme parks and what's going on with the pandemic and how, there's so many plans that were in progress that are kind of being abandoned or put on hold right now anyways. But, the basic idea that Super Nintendo World is small is it was infuriating because it's the same size as all of these things are. And people were just saying this and everyone was just liking each other's things. And, and I like the way I put it was like, how like being like a theme park guy reading like gaming Twitter, try to comprehend this stuff is like for the, when you're a gamer and you have a friend who's like, yeah, Halo's going to be on PlayStation. I heard it. And like, you just can't like, you want to just scream, I know more than you, you're wrong, but like you sound like a jackass, but it's true.
Yeah. I mean, I was like very glad to have you to like bounce off immediately. I'm like, hey Mike, these people on Twitter are annoying me. Should I be annoyed? And you're like, yes, this is insane.
And I got really annoyed. It's
just it was so many people that I like, that's just small. I'm like, I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I mean, theme parks are literally designed to. I mean, I think most people would be surprised by the actual footprint of like the theme park lands they go to because there's all these tricks of forced perspective and hiding show buildings and all this stuff that they just they don't understand. But instead of accepting that they don't understand it, they have to make stupid comments, which I'm sure I do about things I don't understand too.
Sure,
it's just upsetting to see it happen in practice and being so aware of it.
Yeah, it's a curse, man. Ignorance is bliss, and having that actual information is just a curse. But
it looks great. It's kind of the other takeaway is that it looks super cool, and I'm excited for it.
Yes, I was gonna say just like from that photo, like it looks like something that stands up there with a lot of other theme park lands.
Oh yeah, I mean. Again, I don't have exact acreage. It looks about the size to me as the Avatar land that Disney built at Animal Kingdom. Like the walkway is really cool. Like the coolest looking thing is the entrance to the Mario Kart ride. You actually go inside of Bowser's Fortress for it, and it's like a full size Bowser's Fortress with like that giant like stone Bowser head. Like that's what you walk through to get into that ride. And that ride I think it's gonna have some outdoor sections, but mostly will be. A large part of it will be like indoors and you kind of go through different locations from Mario Kart. The ride system's going to like allow you to actually drift and stuff like you do in the game.
Oh, cool.
So that's the big ride. The smaller ride is this Yoshi ride, which will be kind of like you're more kind of family friendly, kind of dark ride thing. So, you think about the Fantasyland rides in Disney World, like, Snow White's Adventure or Peter Pan flight, something like that. A slow moving vehicle thing, but your vehicle is a Yoshi. And there's going to be like a bunch of different Yoshi animatronics and stuff like
that. It sounds really cool for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, it's super exciting. And then, there's a bunch of things we still don't know about. Like there are food like locations and restaurants and stuff and stores. We don't know the exact themes for those.
But yeah.
And then when that Donkey Kong Country Land opens, it's going to have like a Donkey Kong Country roller coaster, quote unquote, and like it's gonna have this ride system that's gonna make it look like you're jumping gaps in the rails, just like in those levels. It's gonna be incredible.
It's gonna be good.
Insane.
I'm very excited, and I'm glad to see that it's reaching completion. That was the one in Japan was supposed to be going pretty soon, right? With the
They
Summer
were
Olympics.
timing it to open with the Olympics, correct? Yeah, so that may have been open by now, if not for everything else. But yeah, you can look at it; it basically looks done.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
But the,
It
the
looks
Florida
good.
one, the Florida one has barely gone vertical.
Right.
The Hollywood one's going to be the smallest of them because it's not going to even have the Yoshi ride. I believe it's basically just going to be the Mario Kart thing. So that one will probably open before the Florida one even, because the Florida one's being built as part of the new Universal theme park, which was like just getting started as all this was happening. So,
Right.
who knows
Years,
how much
still
they're
years
pushing back
away,
on
right?
that.
Yeah.
Years away, probably like an extra year away than it even was before now.
Okay.
Maybe at one point when they were designing it, their big hope was to get it like kind of going to combat Disney's 50th anniversary in Disney World. But now even like Disney's 50th anniversary plans have been so scaled back, and that would be 2021.
Okay.
Like so many of those things are being scaled back now because of construction delays and because of they don't even know how many people are going to be going within the next year, anyways. So yeah, there's my little theme park asides.
No, I appreciate it. I was excited to see it, and then immediately frustrated. So I'm glad I could have you give some perspective on it.
No, it's all positives. There's nothing to see there. Again, unless you just like somehow heard like, oh, Nintendo theme park happening, and then for 2 years just made up your own idea of what that was, and then you didn't understand what it was going to be, and then decided to get mad about that. I don't know. There it is.
Should I be mad about BlizzCon being canceled, Mike? Probably not.
No, I mean I'm a little. I'm not bummed in the sense of like, oh man, they should do it.
Right.
Like I get it, but I always liked covering BlizzCon a lot. Like from a professional side, I always felt like this was like a week where I really like kind of like prove my mettle, prove my worth. Like this is like a show I'm essentially kind of covering a lot on my own. Like I'm the only person from the team being set there. I get, so I'm covering a lot of different games, doing a lot of interviews. And it's also like, I always bring at least one of my brothers to kind of just like, I don't know if assistant is a great word, but they're kind of my assistant.
Secretary,
I don't know if they would
please,
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would like that, but like, it's basically just somebody to help keep track of some info for me. They take pictures or just, sometimes it's just as much as like having somebody to play like one of the games with and stuff like that. So it's always like, so it's always great. Like I get to bring one of them along and we get to have, especially now that they have families, it's always a nice way to get some big alone time with them. And it's right across the street from Disneyland. So I always take a couple days and go to Disneyland while I'm doing this. So, I like Blizzard games a lot. So it's a bit of a bummer, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Like even if we're on a path where there's going to be no second wave, it seems a little early for something that big because there are so many people at BlizzCon. It's like 80,000 or something. It's really kind of condensed and packed in there. There's a lot of people like in giant crowds waiting to do the same things. So it's too early. Plus, I feel like they're, they not, I'm sure they would maybe like to talk about Overwatch 2 a bit more because that's probably going to be sooner rather than later. But I don't even know if they have much more to say about Diablo 4 at this point. There's a new the World of Warcraft expansion will come out before then probably, so they could talk about a patch for that. But do they need that to do that? I don't think so. Like they're not going to have like a big game announcement this time anyway necessarily,
right?
So, and I think maybe that might be one of the lessons they took from not the previous BlizzCon, but maybe the one before that maybe they don't need to do a BlizzCon every single year anyway.
Yeah.
So, and this way it kind of works out right. Like if this was last year, this would probably be pretty rough for them, right? They probably would have just not announced Diablo 4 for like another year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bother? Yeah,
but and they even said like they're going to try to do. Then like they didn't say like a big digital event, but they're going to try to like basically sprinkle out some of the info later, early in 2021, which to me sounds like that'll be Overwatch 2, and that Overwatch 2 will probably not be this year.
Okay, all right, yeah. I was wondering if Overwatch 2 would be something they would want to launch alongside the next gen consoles because.
Yeah, I saw you tweeting about that, and my impression is I don't think it's going to be ready by then. I'm sure the pandemic probably isn't helping them too much on that front, but it's you could see the like why maybe it would be because the timing would be good, and again, like
it's the kind of game that makes sense at that point, as opposed to like a God of War 2, where like it's a big game that you play once and then you put away, and then it ends up on the like the used game shelf or whatever. Overwatch 2 is something like people will continue to play for a long time, so it's okay if it like builds up slowly alongside the consoles. That was my reasoning. But if it's not ready, it's not ready.
Right, and I think that's ultimately what's happening.
Right.
I don't think it's ready.
All right. So I got two topics I want to talk about with you. The first one is someone on Twitter asked us, "Do you beat a game or solve a game?" And I think it was mostly a joke. But
this is my okay. To be clear, this is a childhood friend / relative of mine.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah.
And he is convinced that you solve games. And he gets mad at me every time I say that I beat the game. He's like, "No, you saw." I'm like, and I keep telling him, "No one says that," and he doesn't believe me.
Now, I actually have just recently developed an opinion on this.
Okay, good.
So here, and I think there's a distinction between them, and you need both words. So I think you beat most games. If you're a regular person just playing through a game, and you get to the end and you beat the final boss, you've beaten them. Solving a game is a completely different thing. Solving is like, you know what? Clubhouse Games is a really good example of this. Clubhouse Games has multiple games that are, by definition, you can go on Wikipedia and look them up. It is a Wikipedia entry called Solved Games, where, like Connect 4, there is a proper way where you should always be playing a certain way to get the best results, to have the best chance of winning. Connect 4 is a solved game. There's a couple other ones that are like less well known, but like chess isn't a solved game. There is no efficient way. Like there is no like one best efficient way to actually play that game. You have to like always be on your toes and thinking differently.
Look, what you're saying makes sense, but he told me he solved Super Mario Galaxy.
No, I know, and I'm saying that is wrong. That is completely wrong. Now, you can solve some like of games like that. Like if you get to a point where I can't think, like I'll just pull something on my like Dragon's Dogma. If you got to a point where like you had a build where you just hit the same button over and over because it's like, oh, this is the best weapon, and now I'm cheesing it. I think you could say that you have solved.
In the sense that games are a problem to solve, I suppose, or a puzzle to solve.
And some are, but like most aren't.
You solve puzzles, you solve problems. You don't solve games.
Yeah, and right. You like in the way that most people think about it, you are beating games. Yes, and then
where does that etymology come from? Actually, is there anything else that we say I guess you beat your opponent. In a sporting events, and that's why.
Yes,
and I think it used to literally have an actual like physical connotation because it was a sport, and you would probably you
gladiators and stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
you beat them.
You beat
now we're beating
stuff.
Games that we can't actually hurt. They can hurt us, but we can't really hurt them. But we still beat them.
But yeah, like if you were like competing in a video game challenge, like trying to get the highest score, you wouldn't say like, "Oh, I solved this competition." Like, no, I beat everyone else. I got the highest score.
You win, you beat it.
Yeah, all those work. Yeah,
solve it.
Right. But like Pac-Man, yeah. So like you would like beat your opponent in Pac-Man, but like the best players of Pac-Man have solved Pac-Man in terms of they know the best way to play it. I'm just saying.
I understand. Yeah, they know the patterns of the ghosts.
I can tell that like all these arguments would not work with your friend / family member.
No, he's just gonna say you solve it. He's gonna be mad.
Yeah. Well, too bad.
Tweet at me some more.
Yeah,
all right.
Go tell him what I said and tell him that's what goes. What I said goes.
I'm gonna yell at you now.
All right, so I can't believe you wrote it in the thing like this. Jeff's thing on console exclusives not mattering. I never said they don't matter. God damn it. And
well,
like, I wrote it,
yourself.
and I haven't published it yet. And I'm like, I know as soon as I publish it, it's just going to be a nonstop thing of people being like, no, they do matter. And I'm like, motherfucker. Okay, let me see if I can, let me just try to explain this. Okay, so, what I'm saying is I think that we overestimate their value slightly. And my point is, okay, so like a good example is if you've ever read the book Moneyball or seen the movie Moneyball.
I have seen that movie.
So yeah, like in that movie, it's it's the story of the real Oakland A's and how they were able to compete. Even though they had a much smaller budget than like the New York Yankees, they were able to compete by looking at a different way of valuing players. Instead of like just spending money to get superstars, they were spending money to buy runs. And I think the same thing is true in games where instead of just companies like Microsoft or Sony spending money to build blockbuster games, they should be spending their money to increase engagement. And I say engagement, and like it's a term that I think usually it's just like, oh, gross, this is just the company. It's like using corporate speak or whatever. And I think there's a reason that both Microsoft and Sony have recently begun emphasizing engagement in their quarterly reports. And it's because that's actually the thing that they see mattering the most to their bottom line. So
But
go ahead.
okay, but so like your big example where you kind of let off on this on Twitter was like about the Wii U, right? Like, oh, the Wii U was a failure despite having exclusives. I guess like I have like I feel like I have the opposite take on that. I feel like the Wii U's exclusives were not very strong, and maybe that was a part of the.
I think in the first year, yeah,
yeah. Well, which really, I mean, the Wii U is a weird thing to use for this anyways, because the Wii U obviously had other issues on why it was a failure, right? And obviously it did have good exclusives, like with Mario Maker, Splatoon 1, but like I do not think people were very excited about New Super Mario Brothers U. I don't think people were that excited about 3D World. Star Fox obviously did like nothing, and so on and so forth, right? And then I guess kind of the other like maybe recent example that I feel like would maybe go against your premise here is like Sony PlayStation 4, much stronger exclusives than the Xbox One, and it's even though Microsoft doesn't give hardware numbers, we know that it's sold better than the Xbox One, right?
Right. But my point there would be that if you look at the first couple of years, like PlayStation 4 jumped out way ahead, way before it had the exclusives, way before Sony was ready to put out exclusives on the PS4 because they didn't think it was going to sell that well. Sony didn't think it was going to sell that well. And then it did. And it was for reasons beyond exclusives. It was people were excited about the platform because, Microsoft screwed up so bad, but people just wanted next gen games in general. And then people like started getting the PS4 because they were like hearing all this bad stuff about Xbox One, and then their friends started getting the PS4, so they got the PS4 because they wanted to play with their friends. And my point is that all of that other stuff matters quite a bit more than I think we give it credit for. And I think maybe instead of saying that exclusives are overvalued, I think maybe we undervalue all this other stuff that I'm talking about.
They're not the end all be all. That's what you're trying.
Yeah, I think if you rank like what is the thing that makes most people choose one console over the other, I think most people would say number one is console exclusives, and my thing would be like maybe nudge it down just a tiny bit and make it like tied or maybe just below like network factors and stuff. I think there's a lot of people who choose consoles for the exclusives. My other point is that those people aren't actually as important to the console manufacturers as someone who's just like buying third-party games and playing a lot of Fortnite, who's spending money on that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess with that example, Switch might be a little bit of a weird talking point, but it totally seems like exclusives are driving that machine, right? Like from the very beginning with Breath of the Wild, and then that first year was so strong, like from that to ARMS to Splatoon 2 to Mario Odyssey. And then it seems like they had all these other kind of big talking point games like Smash Brothers and now Animal Crossing, where like Animal Crossing has absolutely sold machines up. I know you're not saying that those games don't, but if for the Switch, if not exclusives, then like obviously it's not services with the Switch. So the only other thing there is just convenience and form factor, maybe.
Yeah, and I think so. Obviously, Nintendo is not Nintendo without exclusives. Like I see that in the story. Like it would be wild to suggest anything else. Like obviously you need exclusives if you're one of these companies. Google Stadia needs exclusives. Like
they don't have them, but they need them.
Yes, there should be no argument there. But I think that if you took the exact same exclusive library from the Switch and put it on the Wii U in the exact same order, it would do better. It would not be doing Switch numbers. There's no way.
No, I agree. Yeah,
I think the convenience of the Switch actually is its biggest factor beyond exclusives. Now, can you really say that? Because you absolutely need they're all working together. I don't think so, but I think a good way of looking at this is that like should be the end goal of a console platform company. I think the end goal should be to get that engagement. It should be to get people in your ecosystem. If you're someone who plays like a lot of games on PC, but you bought a PlayStation 4 just for the exclusives, and then you just buy the exclusives, people are going to look at that and be like, oh, So that's a big win for Sony. Sony is like really making moves and getting people onto their platform. But I think, and this is someone on, I can't remember, they had a funny name, but someone on Reset Era actually like made me realize this point, and that they're in my story, so read my story if you want to get the full context. But that person who is just getting PlayStation 4 for exclusives isn't actually that, it's like a low value customer for them, because they want you also fully in their ecosystem. Until you buy into a console platform's ecosystem, you're not worth that much to Microsoft or Sony or even Nintendo. So what their goal there should be to encourage people to fully adopt their ecosystem. And a lot of people I think would say here like, oh, well, exclusives are how you do that. And I think exclusives are one way to do that, and I think they're an important part of it. I think the other way is through things like services. It is like the network effect of Game Pass, where when a person like gets Game Pass and all their friends get Game Pass, and now they're playing games together every weekend because they all know that they have the same games in this ongoing library, and then those same people are like, well, a new game's coming out for $60 that isn't part of Game Pass, but we all have so much fun playing together. Let's all just go ahead and buy it. Let's all just spend the money on it. We're actually going to do it because we know that we have a good time playing together. I think that is a more it's a more value. So it's like $1 spent on that kind of player is actually worth more than $1 spent on the person just buying exclusives. And that's what I mean by the value proposition is maybe a little bit off.
Like that sounds reasonable. It's making sense. I guess the one thing that popped in my head now is like right now you're sounding more like 3-4 years ago Microsoft.
I agree. You're right.
And we saw Microsoft like pivot hard from that. And
100%.
What's the reason, right?
Yep. No, I think that if you're in this business, you have to be in the business of actually believing that games matter. If you are Microsoft and you looked at those, it's still a very human business actually. And if you are just looking at the numbers, which is actually kind of what my argument here is, if you just look at the numbers, exclusives aren't quite as valuable as we mean. And I don't think you can actually run your business that way. You have to be a company that believes in making games. I think this is EA's problem. I think it has been like Take-Two and Activision's problem, and they're all trying to rectify it, except for maybe EA.
We're making 93 games over the next 27 months.
They were not saying that a few years ago, no. And I think it's very important because gamers are so plugged in. They want to hear that you believe in making games, and Microsoft it steered away from that. It did not believe in making games itself. 100%, it did not. And I think if you actually want to like be a company that people care about, you need to be seen as a company making games. And then you still get all the benefits of like, oh, exclusives do build an ecosystem. They're just not the only way to do it. But you get those benefits. And then for Microsoft, it's actually like they're doubling down on the benefits because all of their exclusives are also going towards building out Game Pass and making more value on Game Pass. So it's like,
that's true.
It really it builds on itself, and it's going to like really amplify that network effect I was talking about.
What you're really saying is that they need to spend more money buying exclusive NFL content.
Yes, for the Xbox One all-in-one entertainment platform. Yes.
The all-in-one entertainment platform.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm glad we got to talk about that. It was fun to write that yesterday. I wasn't feeling good, and I'm like, I just need to actually sit down and write this. And it came out pretty good, so...
Cool.
Excuse me, I'll post that later.
Yeah, you're only kind of wrong.
Yeah, only kind. That's what I'm aiming for. I just want to be in that meaty the middle part where most of it's wrong, but only kinda. All right. So, Mike, what have you been playing recently?
I've been trying out that Crucible thingy from Amazon Games. I don't know if you tried that yet.
No, I read a headline today and I didn't read the story. I need to, but I will. It apparently is a huge flop, Mike.
It seems like it might be. Which is a shame because there are some really cool ideas there. So it's a was it four players versus 4 players, and you kind of dropped on a big map. You kind of run around. It's almost like Evolve in that sense, where like killing like monsters around there is important for like leveling up and stuff like that, improving your skills. And then you're basically fighting for control of these harvesters that pop up, and that's what kind of brings the two teams into conflict with each other. And from there, you fight each other, and whoever captures like 3 of those things first wins. And what I like the character designs are really cool. There's some really neat like heroes to play as. Like there's this guy named Bug. It's basically like a little drone robot, and like you could like kind of set up turrets. Like you set up the turret and you activate the turret by shooting it, which just kind of felt satisfying.
That's cool. Yeah.
Right, yeah. There's like this other character who just had like one of those like really comically big guns that like looks like a jet engine, and he had like this movement ability where like he literally is like being propelled forward by this thing. It's like a big Gatling gun with this big wind up period. So yeah, like the characters all feel fun to play as. I just feel like they leaned a bit too hard into making it MOBA-y. Like it doesn't feel good that your character's level matters so much when you get into team fights. And like that's like something, right? Like that's something how like League of Legends is, right? So you need to like kill all the creeps and make sure your team's farming in XP so you're good to go at team fights. I don't think shooter fans are really looking for that kind of thing. I think when they get into a fight, they want different things to matter in terms of who's going to win, like aiming or using cooldowns, teamwork, and stuff like that, and not just like, well, they're 3 levels higher than us, and now they have advanced. They're going to steamroll us. So we're basically done for. And I think that's pulling him off. And it's weird because like it kind of feels like Battleborn terms of being like in terms of being like this mix between a shooter and a MOBA, which is just a weird thing to go for right now after. And I understand that they didn't want to just make another Overwatch, right? But I feel like they went too far in the MOBA thing. I guess that's really what it comes down to. And again, I feel bad because there are things that I do like about this game. Strong characters stuff.
Can I ask, is one of the things that you like that it's a genre-infused, hobby-grade, cooperative and competitive FPS exploding with eye-popping style in an imaginative universe? I was about to say Battleborn. This is the stupid Battleborn quote from Pitchford where he called it hobby-grade and genre-infused and all that stuff. And I always go back to it. But
if you had told me that was a Crucible thing, I would have believed you.
Yeah, right. I mean, okay, but is it flopping because it's the MOBA stuff, or is it just maybe there's too much competition? People are already in Valorant. Like, what's happening here?
I mean, I think it's a bit of everything. I feel like Valorant happened, and sometimes people's appetites are they're satiated. I think people are automatically cynical about the Amazon thing, to be honest, whether that's deserved or not. Yeah. I mean, because if you just look at it for instance, it's like, oh wow, another character-based shooter. At least Valorant, I think, benefits from leading so much more into the Counter-Strike thing. I think if its characters were like, here's the cat person character and stuff like that, like people may have been thrown off a lot more.
Yeah. So whenever I hear Valorant, people are like, this is mostly Counter-Strike. There's some other stuff happening, but it's mostly Counter-Strike, and I think people actually want that. Turns out. So Amazon has released a racing game based on like the Top Gear spinoff they have. It's a garbage game, and then they released this. But they've spent a lot of money like getting into the video game business.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think that they? I don't know. I guess that's my question: is what's going on with Amazon and games? I don't know.
I mean, that MMO is like really kind of it at this point, right? Like that MMO better. And I tell you, does any MMO do that well these days?
It just
new ones.
Yeah, that's your
new
that's your
MMOs.
Yeah. But this is what I mean. Like we were just talking about. Like you have to believe in making games, and to me, Crucible feels like it comes from a company that has a lot of money, thinks it should be making games, but doesn't really believe in that idea. That's what it feels like.
I guess the way I can put it is, do I think that Amazon is making games in 5 years? No.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
I absolutely would not think so.
Right, and even
but again, I think it's a bit of a shame because I think there's interesting things here, and I almost wish this was like much more like clarifies like a super early access thingy. And I know it is. I think it is early access, right? But it's like I almost wish it was like this is like alpha. Like this is nothing. We could change this whenever we want to. But it feels like, I mean, it's what happened with Battleborn. It's what happened with that Cliffy B game, right? Like these games really have one shot to make an impression. And like that's it. And there's different ways to do that. Valorant kind of did it by just having so many streamers on board and just immediately. And because it was Riot, Apex Legends, they also had a lot of streamers, but they had that surprise announcement. And again, it was well, this is Respawn. Here it's this is Amazon. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, it just feels like gaming is a tough business, and boy, it could you might get it completely wrong, and a game might come out and just completely fall flat on its face in a way that like never really happened until a couple years ago. It feels like if you had a big budget game or like a game with at least a lot of marketing behind it, you could push it to at least a certain level of success. And it just feels like maybe not anymore. At this point, you could be the biggest company in the world, put something out, put all the muscle behind it you want, and it could still just flop completely. Which is I think a scary proposition. Which is why I think companies like Amazon and Google might not have the the guts to go through with this, just because you got to hire a lot of people to make a game, and relative to their other businesses that they're in, the amount of people it takes to make a game is going to look pretty astronomical to Amazon and Google. Like Google would almost have to, I think, almost double its headcount to like really have a company that was on the level of like a relatively big publisher. And Amazon's pretty close to the same thing. So yeah, I don't think they're going to want to actually go through.
No, I think these giant tech companies are learning why they don't want to be in gaming.
I think you're right. I think the learnings they're going to take away from this is going to be, we shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
The only reason Microsoft is because like they got in so much earlier, really, right?
Yep, I think you're right. Yeah, it's completely changed since then.
Can you ever imagine a new person coming in? Because we haven't really, like, in terms of like the big console space and all that stuff, because we haven't had anyone since like Microsoft was so long ago now. Almost 20 years.
I think it would have to be like an extreme set of circumstances, like Sony causes a nuclear fallout in Japan and loses all its money and has to like pull out of everything because it just can't support anything. Like, even in that case, they would just spin
there
off.
Has to be a there has to be a vacuum.
I think there has to be a vacuum. Yeah. I think it has to be like one of these bigger companies fall out and then there's space left over for one of these companies to be like, we can fill that gap. There's reasons.
You can argue that's the only rereason Microsoft.
Yeah,
because there's at least some kind of
basically the Dreamcast too, right?
Gone.
Yeah. So
right.
What else you been playing?
DuckTales 2. I did the Memorial Weekend that's how I spent that, and it was fantastic.
I've never played DuckTales 2. It's just as good.
Most people haven't, right? So this is an NES game, and everyone knows about DuckTales 1, classic Capcom 2D platformer.
That's what I know.
This is like the same plays the same way, really. Also Capcom, also NES. It's a 1993 NES game, so it's very hard to find because very few people bought it.
Right.
It was very rare. But it became available in that Disney Afternoon collection that came out a few years ago. And I was just my Xbox. Yeah, I was just on my Xbox One looking for something to play, and it was on there. And I played it when it came out, but I didn't like beat it. I'm like, I want to actually like.
You mean right?
Game. Right. So, like, I went through and like my first playthrough, I was like using the rewinds and stuff just to kind of like learn what to do, and then like, all right, now I can like beat this game legitimately and get the good ending. And that's kind of one of the neat things compared to the first game is, in the first game, getting a good ending just means like getting a certain amount of gold, so finding a lot of secret treasures and stuff like that. In this game, like each level has a secret treasure map that you can find. So there's like extra puzzles or kind of platforming challenges to do to get these. So it's almost kind of like getting the beat letters in like Mega Man 5 or something like that. So it's kind of a fun little extra challenge. But yeah, I mean, it's more DuckTales. The level design is maybe even like a little tighter in terms of there's not quite so many places to get absolutely lost in. There's not like kind of like some awkward going back to a level like you have to. Like you can go back to a level for more treasure, but it's not like now you have to go back there because you talk to this person and so on and so forth. The only reason why it still may not be better than DuckTales 1 is because it does not have the moon theme, right? Like that song is just so good that it like can elevate the game ridiculously high. Like the music here is not bad, but there is no moon theme. The ending is great because you find Flintheart Glomgold, and he summons the D1000 to attack you because this game came out in 1993, so there has to be a Terminator parody.
Oh my God!
And you fight a duck Terminator at the end. That's the final boss on a ghost ship. Like it doesn't make it. It's fantastic.
That seems like it. And Capcom just kept making those games for NES, didn't they? Like just all their games.
Yeah, well, because there was a Chip and Dale 2, which I have not played much of yet. Maybe that'll be next. Which also came out very late. Like everyone knows Chip and Dale 1 and DuckTales 1. And even the Darkwing Duck game was a pretty late addition to NES.
It's like,
I
yeah,
would
they
say.
kept making Mega Man games pretty late to the.
Yeah, Mega Man
Yeah.
6 came out after Mega Man X, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So
So just.
so weird stuff like that. But yeah, man, I mean, if you like DuckTales 1, you should play DuckTales 2. It's fantastic. In some ways it is better. I think also in DuckTales 1 you actually like had to push down on the D-pad to do the puggling thing, and here you just hold down the B button to do that. So
Mhm.
that feels way better.
And then any final thoughts on Xenoblade?
No, I mean, say the review embargo's up. I haven't beaten it. I'm like
Okay.
20 hours in, so I have a lot. I know that I like it. Right,
Right.
I'm
Right.
there. My big takeaway was just like how it's making me like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 way less.
Right. Which is a game that
And I wrote
you
about
played
that.
through more fully than you ever played through Xenoblade Chronicles 1, right?
Right, I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was 80 or 100 hours long. It was a pretty long JRPG, and and now that I'm really into the first one, I'm like, I think that they just took Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and made it kind of worse, and then they got Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like they made the battle system unnecessarily more convoluted. They made things like a bit, and I hate to say a bit more anime, because what does that mean? There's all different kinds of anime.
Sure.
Like that very specific kind of like almost cute, bizarrely pervy, nonsensical anime, right? It sort of became a lot more of like that in a very weird way.
Right.
Like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is taking itself pretty seriously for the most part, almost too seriously sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a little drab, I guess. But 2 is just, I don't know, 2 is a bizarre game,
I
man.
was surprised to see how well Xenoblade Chronicles rated across the board. Got some pretty high
Xenoblade Chronicles
scores.
1, yeah, it's pretty well regarded
Seems
JRPG. And
like.
again, I'm kind of understanding that now. It is very fun. Uh, I mean, is it going to become one of my new all-time favorite JRPGs? I don't think so. Like
Mhm.
I just beat Dragon Quest 11. Like I can't stop raving about that and how that's like one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. Absolutely. I don't know if this is quite that good, but it's very good. I mean, if you like JRPGs and you have a Switch, this should be in your collection. You should definitely get this over 2 if like you
Right.
haven't played either.
Right. Okay. Well, good to hear. I once again just haven't had a lot of time to play games. I'm also at a point where it's like I'm kind of exhausted, almost too exhausted to like sit down and play a game. Where I feel like if I sit down, I'll just fall asleep immediately, just because I feel again like so immobilized by everything in the world, especially this past week. But even before that, I just was at a point where like sitting down to play a game was like, oh man, I don't know if I have the energy. But I did I had Dolphin up and running on my the PC I have connected to my TV, and I was also playing Echo, and I'm still playing that on the Dreamcast emulator on there.
Yes.
And then but then like I'm like, you know what, I was talking about the Super Mario Galaxy 2 recently because it was its 10-year anniversary, and I did like, oh, now it's retro or whatever. And I've been thinking about that series anyhow, so I'm like, you know what? Let's see if I can get that up and running on Dolphin on the PC, and it works great. But you need a Wiimote and the nunchuck to actually play it. Like, and then that means you need a whole bunch of other stuff. Like you need a sensor bar. But I'm like, you know what? I think I have one, and I'm pretty sure that they just connect to computers. I think it's just Bluetooth. And Dolphin makes it super simple. You just make sure Dolphin is open, make sure it's continuously looking for a Wiimote, and then you turn on the Wiimote and hit the 1 and 2 button so that it tries to connect, and it just automatically hooks up. And it was like magical. I'm like, now I have a Wiimote and nunchuck just working on my computer. So I booted up Super Mario Galaxy to see if it would work, and I didn't have the sensor bar hooked up yet because I didn't want to like just bring up a Wii or a Wii U and plug it in just so I could have a sensor bar. And you can't really play that game without a sensor bar, but the sun was out, and the sun is also basically just a giant sensor bar. So for a little bit, I was like pointing the Wiimote over at the window, and that was working okay for about like 15 minutes, but then the sun moved, and it didn't work that well anymore.
The sun always moving.
Exactly. But through that little portion of time, it's like, man, this game is still really good. But I went on Amazon and I ordered a wireless sensor bar that just works with batteries, and now I have that in place, and I have basically a working Wii on my computer now.
Man.
And that game, Dolphin does a good job of upscaling everything and making sure everything looks sharper than it ever did on a Wii on a CRT. But even like trying to keep that in mind, Nintendo art is just timeless. This game looks so good.
Right. Like that game does not feel like more than 10 years old, right? That game came out like 2008 or something.
Yeah, 2008, I think is right.
Even?
Yeah, yeah,
Something like that.
right. And it's like, so it's like even older than something like Red Dead Redemption. And if you compare it to Red Dead Redemption, where it's just like Red Dead Redemption 1 still looks like a pretty good game, especially if you play it like up like with the Xbox One and X enhanced version, or yeah, Xbox One X enhanced version. It looks really good. But you could tell it's an older video game now, and
yeah.
And you just
you kind of look at it through that lens. Like that's like I love older video games, but there's
same, yeah.
Like, you know, when I say something is aged, I don't mean like I can't play it anymore. It's gross. I mean like I there's a different context around it,
and this is
I can still enjoy it.
Right, I'm not ragging on Red Dead Redemption. It's fine that it looks the way it looks. This is me praising Nintendo and just being like,
yeah,
it is unbelievable the things that they could do with Wii hardware and the and GameCube, whatever, the same thing basically. But just
I mean,
God,
I didn't even feel like there was any other Nintendo games that came close to what they did with Mario Galaxy 1 and 2.
Yeah,
like even Skyward Sword, which I liked, still didn't quite feel like as ridiculous as that. And like technically, I know people have a lot of pacing issues with that game, but just like in terms of what they did. Oh man, I'm jealous. I want to play that game again so bad.
Yeah, and then just just playing it. I'm like almost like I should just wait until they do the 3D remasters. But I'm like I just wanted to get in there and play around for a little bit.
I'm so curious that
go ahead.
Because like I'm sorry. You finish your thought.
I was gonna say like actually playing it is like it's still incredible. It is amazing to me that game works at all. You don't have a second analog stick, and you forget about that sometimes because it's just like the game just worked. But it's like. Playing Mario Odyssey, and like I prefer having a second analog stick. I prefer the way that Mario Odyssey controls and feels when I'm playing it. But the idea that there is a competent 3D Mario game without a second analog stick and the camera's almost never in the wrong place is just it's impossible. It's impossible what they did with that game.
How well they did that.
Yeah, and it's like, and the reason they designed the game specifically with that in mind, so that's why like everything's rounded and there's not a lot of stuff to get in the way. You're on these little balls.
Like, it's a bit more linear, right?
Yeah, but still, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. No other company could pull this off. No one else ever did. It is incredible, and it deserves to be like absolutely in like whatever video game Hall of Fame we have. Just incredible what they did with those games. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Just that I'm curious, like what this, if it does happen, this Switch version of Galaxy looks like, because like I part of me almost feels like the motion controls are kind of important to that. Like part of me is like, oh, let's get rid of them, it'll be fine. But part of me is like, those were actually kind of a fun thing in that game, and they were kind of important sometimes. So
yeah, just like shaking to like once you're in the star and like shaking in heaven and you blast off.
Right,
like,
that felt good. Like now shaking every time you wanted to do like your basic attack, maybe not so much. But like aiming around the star bits and shooting people with the star bits, I thought that was fun. There were some specific levels even where like you're using it, and I'm like, that's actually kind of fun. That's neat. So I think they'll work around that just fine.
Yeah, and I think they'll give you a way to do that with the Joy-Cons. I think they will I think they will figure out all that stuff with that stuff. But I think it'll be an option.
There's also going to have to be a version without it,
right? Because
it'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, gosh, I'd say I want to play Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 again so badly.
Yep.
I want to hold off until they announce those things. Maybe I'll just play through Odyssey again to kind of satiate myself. But
yeah, just great games.
Plus I like 100%ed 64 and Odyssey. I have not for Sunshine and the Galaxy games in 3D World.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If those all come out for Switch, that's something I would definitely.
Yes, that's a good idea. All great games for sure. Nothing else though, really. I guess I played a little bit of the old world, but I'm still like in the middle of my first game, which is it's basically Civilization, but with some familial elements where you actually have heirs. Heirs, is that the right way to say that? Heirs to the throne.
My heirs.
Yeah, and you pass on elements to them, and you can decide how to educate them. And then after like 50 turns, and your king is old. Well, now you're the princess, and she's growing up, and now she's the queen. And so there's like some more intrigue and like personal elements. And that stuff works, and that's stuff that like you see in some other games that aren't necessarily 4X's, but it's working, and I'm enjoying it. I think the game looks really good for a 4X game, but I want to actually get through my first playthrough before I really like talk about that game. And I know Jason's been playing it too, so maybe we'll bring him in to talk about it.
for some reason I always thought that 4X had something to do with like tiles. Like, oh, they're called that because the games are tiles and there's 4 sides to a tile.
And then they released Hexagon Civ, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, now it's just tradition. But then I learned that it's not called that.
It's Explore, Exterminates is the last one. What are the other two? There's
shouldn't it be 4 E's then?
Shut up, Mike.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
All right. That does it for me.
Are you still playing Animal Crossing daily?
Not daily, no way. But I'm still checking in at least once a week.
I'm still full on daily, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I played for like 200 hours.
Deep I am.
It's a good game. But
yeah, I guess you're more than me.
But like, I got to a point where I started feeling there's like this guilt associated with like breaking up with that game.
Yeah, I am afraid to like stop because because the game goes on without you, right?
It goes on without you, and in this game they're like pretty like right if like you're new, you don't go in for like 3 days, you come back and they're like, oh, I haven't talked to you in forever. And it's like, oh man, already. And then I start thinking about like what's it gonna be like when I stop playing this game, and I just feel bad. It's a weird thing. I wish I need to think about it more. There's probably a story there. I'm sure other people have probably written it, but but it's just it's a weird point. I'm at a weird point with that game. I still want to keep coming back to get my to make sure I get all the monthly fish and the bugs and stuff. I want to keep my museum.
Did you get your
going.
golden trout?
I caught that the month before when we were like there was another fish that was about to go away, and I happened to catch the golden trout at that point.
I went through like 50 fish bait yesterday, and then finally got one at like 3 a.m. while I was reading about horrifying news on Twitter. So
yes,
good stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Right, good use of my time.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. But yeah, it's like I think I might get to a point where I need to get okay with just doing that stuff and like maybe avoiding talking about other villagers so I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
And not thinking about all the other projects that I've left abandoned and didn't finish.
Yeah, my thing now is like because I'm in a pretty good space where I think I have almost all the fossils that there are.
Yes, I'm missing
I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm missing like 3 or 4.
I'm not too far away from paying off the last home debt, which doesn't even really matter that much. And I'm not that far away from a 5-star town rating. The big thing is like, am I going to worry about filling up the art gallery?
Yeah,
because it just seems like
I haven't.
Because he comes once every 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, in order to really do that, first off, I definitely have to log in every day, even if I'm at a point where I don't want to anymore. And then like, you're gonna just have to start like going to like Discord people's islands when Red is there, I guess, because otherwise it's gonna take years. So.
And like, I get why they make the game like this. I get that there are people who are going to be playing this game daily for years, and building content for those people is important. That's fine, but it puts more weight on me where it's like more stuff that I'm ignoring and feeling bad about. And it's like, well, now the museum was the reason I was coming back, and I wanted to make sure my museum was perfect. And like this pretty much guarantees my museum's not going to be perfect. So it's another thing that I'm just like, damn. And so again, just kind of, it's a weird game to break up with for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's still super fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh yeah, it's still up there in my game of the year talk. Yeah.
And we'll get off this soon, but I actually had like the most people over on my island. Like I had 6 because I had shooting stars.
Oh yeah,
that's fun. And I like that. I like this. I love the shooting stars as like an excuse to get people to come to your island.
No, that's stuff. They've done so much good stuff there. I wish the online worked better, but I think you're right. That's such a good excuse.
Did you see my new museum?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a good museum. I'm very proud of that. I'll have to find that picture for you.
Yeah,
so you can tell me I'm good.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to see what you mean. All right, let's wrap this up, Mike. It was a good episode. Why don't we tell people where we can find you on the internet?
I am on Twitter at Tolkoto, Tolkoto. And check out my Disney podcast, 90s Disney, at 90sdisney.com. We should be having a new episode about the Indiana Jones adventure ride in Disneyland.
Right.
In 5 days or so. But the start of the month, pretty soon.
I'm excited about that. And I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. Also on twitch.tv/Jeff Grubb. And then it's youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb to get me there. And then I have another podcast, How Games Make Money. New episode should be going up around the same time as this episode, so check that out. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, that does it for us then. Let's get out of here. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Have a good one. Until next week, take care of yourselves, and goodbye.
So long.